Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are digging in something pretty crucial, but also, let's be honest, pretty dense.
Mm,
Global packaging standards.
that's right.
Our sources gave us a really comprehensive look at the big shift from BRCGS Packaging Materials Issue 6 to the new Issue 7.
And look, if you are in quality assurance or compliance or you're managing operations, this deep dive is, well, it's essential. This isn't just a minor update.
Not a tweak to a checklist.
No, not at all. The documents we reviewed, they all hammer this point home. Issue 7 is a massive evolutionary step. It's about reinforcing a much more proactive, risk-based approach to, product safety and quality.
And when you put the two issues side by side, it's so clear. The industry is responding to globalization, to consumer demand, and just speed. Our sources kept calling Issue 7 a significant enhancement. It's adapting to new tech, it's reflecting best practices, and I think most importantly, it's locking down much stricter legal compliance.
And the core message for you listening to this really just boils down to accountability. If your operations were, let's say, just kind of coasting on Issue 6, well, Issue 7 is going to demand a measurable, documented, systemic upgrade.
So today we're going to show you where those demands are going to hit the hardest. And it doesn't start with machinery.
No, it starts with mindset.
Exactly. Let's unpack that. We're jumping straight into what feels like the biggest philosophical change, which is this institutional focus on culture.
Right.
Issue 6. It asks for management commitment. But Issue 7 explicitly mandates a focus on product safety and quality culture. It's a huge shift from written procedures to integrated behavior.
That is the key distinction. Auditors aren't just glancing at the mission statement on the wall anymore. They are looking at how safety and quality are actually lived, day to day. The docs call it a major new focus for a reason.
Which is?
Because poor standards, at the end of the day, they come from a poor culture. It's that simple.
Okay, so if the culture itself is now auditable, how do you even measure that? How do you quantify something as vague as positive culture?
They figured it out. It's Clause 1.1.2. Senior management, we're talking top-down, must actively develop, implement, and maintain a written action plan to improve that positive culture.
An action plan. So not just a policy.
No, this isn't vague advice. The plan has to have documented measures, performance targets, things like reducing nonconformities or improving reporting rates, and they need evidence of performance reviews and communication. It forces management to treat culture like a KPI.
Just like sales or production volume.
Exactly.
Wow, that makes compliance so much harder. You can't just buy a new machine to fix a cultural problem.
You can't.
And speaking of institutionalizing safety, there's a new mandatory requirement that goes right to the heart of employee trust. The confidential reporting.
Ah, yes. Clause 1.1.3. A lot of people are calling it the whistleblower clause.
That feels about right.
It mandates that sites must set up and, importantly, publicize a confidential reporting system. This lets any employee, contractor, anyone report concerns about safety or legality without fearing reprisal.
Okay, that sounds great on paper, but I have to ask. For a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, setting up a truly confidential system, one that actually protects people from, say, middle management retaliation, that must be incredibly difficult. Is it realistic?
It is challenging, and I think that's why the standard makes it mandatory. It forces the investment.
And what, like third-party systems?
Either that or internal structures with genuine firewalls. The whole idea is that you can't just rely on audits. You're missing what's happening on the line every single day. By doing this, you turn every employee into an active part of your risk management team.
So a minor deviation gets reported before it becomes a massive public recall.
Precisely. It moves the company from being reactive to being truly proactive.
It's forcing management to prove they value employee vigilance over just hierarchy. That's a profound shift.
It is. And that proactive mandate, it leads us perfectly into the nuts and bolts, the technical rigor, and the new operational deadlines. Let's start with HARA.
Hazard analysis and risk assessment. Okay, let's talk fundamental status first.
The entire section, Section 2.0, which covers HARA, is now designated as a fundamental requirement.
And in BRCGS terms, fundamental means
It's non-negotiable. Bedrock. A failure here is an instant major finding. Game over for that audit.
And within that section, there's a little terminology change that our sources flagged as a really critical technical difference. The language itself has shifted.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge aha moment for compliance teams. The standard has systematically replaced critical control points, or CCPs,
Right.
with critical control measures, or CCMs. It's a subtle change, but it's very deliberate.
So explain the practical difference, a point versus a measure. What does that mean in a packaging plant?
Okay, so a CCP is typically for food processing. Think of it as a kill step, like ensuring a critical temperature is hit to kill bacteria. Failure is immediate danger. In packaging, the risks are often preventative. Things like physical contamination or chemical migration. A critical control measure just fits that context better. It could be monitoring how often a print head is cleaned, or verifying the calibration of metal detectors.
So it's a broader term.
It's broader, yeah.
Yeah.
It covers the measures you take to control a hazard, not just a single point in the process. It's tailored language for the reality of packaging.
That makes a lot of sense. And this must connect to the validation requirements, which I heard are also much stronger now.
Oh, absolutely. Validation is key under Clause 2.7.2. The HARA team now has to explicitly validate each CCM and its critical limits. You can't just trust vendor claims or old data.
You have to generate auditable proof.
Auditable proof, scientific or documentary evidence that your CCM will reliably control the hazard every single time, even when things vary a little. You have to stress test your systems.
And stress testing is the perfect segue to what I think is the biggest operational change, the time pressure. Let's talk traceability and incident management.
This is where Issue 7 brings in the deadline that's causing the most headaches. We're talking about the famous 4-hour rule.
4 hours.
4 hours, Clause 3.0.3.
That sounds brutal.
It is. The traceability test now has to demonstrate that you can trace a product completely from raw materials coming in the door through every internal process to the finished goods going out within 4 hours.
I could just hear the quality managers groaning. What was it before, and what does this really mean in terms of systems?
Before, you might have had 24, maybe even 48 hours. Plenty of time to pull paper records, check batch logs.
Yo, wait.
The 4-hour rule kills that approach instantly. It forces a major investment in digital systems, WMS, barcoding, automated material allocation. You have to be able to hit a button at 10 a.m. and have the full report by 2 p.m.
It's about the speed of information, not just the accuracy.
Exactly. And that urgency is immediately followed by a major transparency requirement for incidents.
Right, the notification rule.
Absolutely. Clause 3.14.6, you now have to inform your certification body, your CB, within 3 working days of any significant safety or legality incident.
And significant means things like recalls, withdrawals.
Recalls, withdrawals, any serious prosecution related to the product's safety. Yes.
So if a big incident happens, you can't just keep it in-house with the lawyers anymore. There's an external clock ticking. You have to tell the auditors within 72 hours.
You do. And it doesn't necessarily create new legal exposure, but it guarantees transparency to the CB right away. From the BRCGS perspective, this lets them monitor the standard's effectiveness. For you, the company, it means you better have a crisis comms plan ready that includes your CB from the start.
High speed, high transparency.
Yeah.
That sets the stage perfectly for our next section.
Yeah.
The physical environment. What's required on the factory floor to support all this?
Right, so let's walk onto the factory floor. The requirements here are way more prescriptive now.
Okay, what's the biggest change in terms of, like, cleanliness and environmental controls?
It's the move from just general hygiene to mandatory structured testing. That's Clause 4.8.6. You have to implement a microbiological testing program. And you have to monitor other things too, like air quality and surface cleanliness.
So we're talking about verifiable microbial control, not just visible dust.
Exactly. This is so critical for packaging that goes into, say, aseptic food and beverage filling. The standard demands a program that's maintained and reviewed, with defined sampling frequencies and a clear plan for what to do when a test fails.
That's a big investment in lab testing.
It is.
I also saw the documents mention more detail on the building itself, the walls, floors.
Yep, that's clauses 4.2.1 and 4.2.2. They're mandating more specific requirements for the building fabric. Things like seamless flooring, non-shedding wall materials. They're looking at the integrity of the concrete and drywall like never before, all to prevent contamination.
And speaking of contaminants, there's a new focus beyond the usual suspects.
Yes. Clause 4.9.5, this is super relevant. While glass, wood, and metal are still priorities, the standard now explicitly requires a risk assessment for all other physical contaminants, and it specifically lists ceramic and brittle plastic.
Which are common in machinery parts and tools.
Right. It's a direct acknowledgement that if those things fracture, they pose a huge risk to the packaging stream.
Okay, let's move upstream, the supply chain. How has Issue 7 tightened control over suppliers and subcontractors?
It's been tightened significantly. That's 3.6.2. The standard mandates a systematic risk-based approach for not just initial approval, but for ongoing monitoring.
So no more just filling out a form once a year.
Exactly. Your
Yeah.
monitoring frequency has to directly connect to the risk level of that material or service.
Yeah.
You need a defined system for continuous performance evaluation.
And what if you outsource something, like a special coating or a sterilization step? Who owns that risk?
You do. 100%. Clauses 3.8.1 and 3.8.2 make it very clear. Any outsourced process has to be included in your service specs, your supplier evaluations, and, critically, in your own site's HR plan.
You can't just push accountability off-site.
Nope. Your HERA has to account for the risk that third party introduces.
Okay, before we wrap up the operational changes, we have to touch on allergen management. That's a big one.
The huge one. Issue 7, under Clause 4.9.4, moves from just general advice to demanding a formal, documented allergen management plan, full risk assessment, control measures, segregation.
And what's the most complex part of that?
It's the requirement to cover legal labeling for the country of sale. So if you ship your product to 5 different countries, your allergen plan has to account for all 5 of their legal frameworks. It's a heavy lift for the regulatory team.
No kidding. Okay, finally, let's talk about scope. How is BRCGS expanding to embrace modern trends?
The standard has really broadened its reach. It now explicitly includes technologies like digital printed packaging, which has just exploded.
And new materials too, right?
Yes, new sustainable materials. Things like compostable and biodegradable packaging are now formally included. It shows the standard is trying to be future-proof.
And it also now covers single-use products.
Exactly. Cups, cutlery, napkins. Anything single-use for food or hygiene-sensitive applications is now explicitly covered. The safety integrity has to be there, whether it's a high-end carton or a disposable coffee cup.
And there's one final bit of flexibility for sites that are already certified.
Yes, there is. Recognizing the tech we have now, Issue 7 introduced the blended announced audit. It combines a remote document review with the on-site physical inspection. It can help streamline things for sites that have a good digital infrastructure.
Wow, we have covered a ton of ground here, from culture to 4-hour deadlines and the specs for your flooring. This is not a passive update.
Not at all. That's the summary, really. Issue 7 is an intentional move toward greater prescription, higher accountability. The whole framework is shifting to be more proactive, more documented, and, well, more culturally integrated. It's raising the bar for the entire industry.
So, for you listening, the challenge isn't really if you can meet these requirements, but how quickly and effectively you can build them into your daily operations. So think about this. How will that mandatory confidential reporting system actually change the relationship you have with your team? And what investment do you truly need to make to guarantee you can pass that 4-hour traceability drill next month? Issue 7 is forcing companies to stop looking at quality as just a compliance cost and start seeing it as what it is, a critical part of your corporate culture and your operational resilience.